Have you ever found yourself wondering why Satan, the very embodiment of evil, would dare to show his face before God Almighty? It's a mind-boggling question, isn't it? Well, buckle up, because we're about to dive into the captivating story of Job, a righteous man who had it all until he lost everything. Through Job's journey, we'll uncover the mysterious interactions between God and Satan, and trust me, it's a wild ride. Meet Job, a man so righteous that even God couldn't help but brag about him. Job had it all: a loving family, a thriving business, and a rock-solid faith. But then, in a cosmic twist of fate, Satan strolls into God's throne room and starts throwing shade at Job's devotion. "Oh, he only loves you because you've blessed him," Satan scoffs. "Take away his blessings and he'll curse you to your face." God, being the confident and just ruler he is, accepts Satan's challenge, but with one condition. Satan can test Job, but he can't lay a finger on him. Brace yourself, because what happens next is a gut-wrenching series of calamities that would break even the strongest of souls. Job lost his wealth, his children, and even his health. He went from having it all to having nothing, and I'm not just talking about material possessions. The emotional toll of losing everything he held dear must have been unimaginable. But here's the thing: even in the midst of all that suffering, Job never lost his faith in God. It's mind-boggling, isn't it? Most of us would have been shaking our fists at the heavens, demanding answers, or just giving up altogether. But not Job. He mourned, he grieved, but he never once cursed God. Instead, he fell to the ground and worshipped, saying, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I will depart. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised." Those words are a testament to the depth of Job's faith. He recognized that everything he had was a gift from God, and that God had the right to give and take as he saw fit. It's a perspective that's hard for us to wrap our minds around, especially when we're in the middle of our own trials. But Job's faith wasn't based on his circumstances. It was rooted in his relationship with God. Throughout his ordeal, Job grappled with some tough questions. He wondered why he was suffering, and he even wished he had never been born. But he never stopped believing that God was good, and that there was a purpose behind his pain. He had moments of doubt and despair, sure, but he always came back to his faith in the end. And what a faith it was! Job's friends tried to convince him that he must have done something to deserve his suffering, but Job held fast to his belief in God's goodness. He knew that his righteousness wasn't based on his own actions, but on his relationship with the Almighty. Even when his wife told him to curse God and die, Job refused. He knew that God was worth holding on to, no matter what. It's a level of faith that most of us can only aspire to. But here's the thing: Job's faith wasn't some blind, naive optimism. It was a deep, abiding trust in a God who is always good, even when life is anything but. Job had a relationship with God that was strong enough to weather any storm, and that's something we can all learn from. You see, as Job sat in ashes, his body covered in painful sores, he had no idea that his suffering would lead to one of the most profound encounters with God in all of history. He had a lot of questions for God, and he wasn't afraid to ask them. But here's the thing: when God finally spoke to Job, it wasn't to give him a point-by-point explanation of why he was suffering. Instead, God revealed himself to Job in a way that left him utterly speechless. In a whirlwind of divine power and majesty, God reminded Job of who he was: the creator of the universe, the one who set the stars in place and laid the foundations of the earth. It's a moment that leaves us all in awe, because it's a reminder that God is so much bigger than our trials, our questions, and our doubts. When Job encountered God, he realized that his suffering wasn't the end of the story. There was a purpose and a plan behind it all, even if he couldn't see it in the moment. And that's the thing about trials. They have a way of bringing us face to face with God in a way that nothing else can. When we're stripped of everything we once relied on, we're forced to confront the reality of who God is and who we are in relation to Him. It's a humbling experience, but it's also an opportunity for incredible growth and transformation. Think about it. Before his trials, Job knew about God. He had a relationship with Him, sure, but it was based on a certain set of expectations. Job was righteous, so he expected God to bless him. But when those blessings were taken away, Job had to grapple with some tough questions about the nature of God and his own place in the grand scheme of things. And that's where we see the real power of Job's encounter with God. Through his suffering, Job gained a deeper understanding of who God is, not just a distant transactional deity, but a personal sovereign creator who is intimately involved in the lives of his people. Job learned that God's ways are higher than our ways, and that His purposes are beyond our understanding. But here's the really amazing thing. Even in the midst of his questions and his doubts, Job never lost his faith in God. He cried out to Him, he wrestled with Him, but he never turned his back on Him. And in the end, Job emerged from his trials with a deeper, more authentic relationship with his Creator. It's a powerful reminder for us all, because we're going to face trials in this life. We're going to have moments where we don't understand what God is doing or why He's allowing us to suffer. But if we can learn to lean into those moments, to cry out to God and seek His face even in the darkness, we'll find that He is right there with us, every step of the way. Now let's talk about one of the most mind-blowing aspects of Job's story: the fact that Satan had access to God's throne room. I mean, think about that for a second. Here's the enemy of all that is good and holy, the one who's been wreaking havoc on earth since the beginning of time, and he's allowed to just waltz right into the presence of the Almighty. It's a concept that's hard to wrap our minds around. But here's the thing. Satan's access to God's throne room is actually a testament to God's sovereignty and power. You see, Satan may be the prince of this world, but he's not the king. He's a created being, just like you and me, and he's subject to the authority of the one who made him. When Satan comes before God in the book of Job, it's not as an equal, but as a subordinate. And that's where things get really interesting, because it's in this heavenly throne room that we see the real power dynamics at play. Satan may be the accuser, the one who's always looking for ways to bring us down, but he can only do what God allows him to do. He may be able to afflict Job, but he can't lay a finger on him without God's permission. It's a concept that's both comforting and unsettling at the same time. On the one hand, it's reassuring to know that even the most powerful forces of evil are ultimately under God's control. But on the other hand, it raises some tough questions about why God would allow Satan to have any influence at all. I mean, if God is all-powerful and all-loving, why doesn't He just put a stop to Satan's schemes once and for all? Well, the truth is, we don't always know the reasons behind God's decisions. His ways are higher than our ways, and His thoughts are higher than our thoughts. But what we do know is that God is always working for our good, even when it doesn't feel like it. He's the master chess player, the one who's always 10 steps ahead of the enemy. And He's using even the most difficult circumstances to accomplish His purposes in our lives. So, when we see Satan standing before God in the book of Job, we can take comfort in knowing that he's not there by accident. God has a plan, and He's using even the enemy's schemes to bring about His will. It's a reminder that no matter what we're going through, no matter how dark the night may seem, God is still on the throne. He's still in control, and He's still working all things together for our good and His glory. But who is this Satan character anyway? The Bible tells us that he was once Lucifer, a magnificent angel who served as a covering cherub and worship leader in heaven. But pride got the best of him, and he rebelled against God, seeking to exalt himself above the Most High. As a result, Lucifer was cast out of heaven, becoming the Satan we know today, the adversary, the deceiver, the one who roams the earth seeking someone to devour. It's a chilling reminder of the consequences of pride and the importance of remaining humble before our Creator. So, how do we stand firm against the schemes of the enemy? I'm not talking about some kind of epic spiritual battle with swords and shields, although that would be pretty cool. I'm talking about the kind of everyday devotion that keeps us rooted in God's love and power, no matter what the enemy throws our way. You see, Satan may be a formidable foe, but he's got nothing on the one who created the universe. When we make God the center of our lives, when we're fully devoted to Him in every aspect of our being, we have a strength and a resilience that the enemy can't touch. But here's the thing. Devotion isn't just about going to church on Sundays or reading our Bibles every once in a while. It's about a constant, ongoing relationship with God that permeates every part of our lives. It's about seeking Him in the good times and the bad, in the mundane and the extraordinary, and allowing Him to shape us into the people He created us to be. And that's where Job's story comes in, because if anyone knew a thing or two about devotion, it was him. I mean, think about it. The guy lost everything, his wealth, his family, his health, but he never lost his faith in God. He never stopped worshiping, never stopped trusting, never stopped believing that God was good, even when everything around him seemed to suggest otherwise. That's the kind of devotion that defeats Satan, because it's rooted in something deeper than our circumstances. It's rooted in the unshakable truth of who God is and what He's done for us. When we're fully devoted to God, we're not swayed by the enemy's lies or discouraged by the trials we face. We know that our hope is secure and that nothing can separate us from the love of Christ. But here's the really amazing thing. Devotion isn't just about us. It's about the impact we can have on the world around us. When we're fully devoted to God, when we're living out our faith with authenticity and passion, people take notice. They see the joy and the peace that we have, even in the midst of difficult circumstances, and they want to know where it comes from. And that's where we have an incredible opportunity to point people to Jesus, to share the hope and the love that we found in Him, and to invite others into the same kind of life-changing relationship that we have. It's not always easy, and it's not always comfortable, but it's always worth it. So, if you want to defeat Satan in your own life, start by getting serious about your devotion to God. Make Him the center of your world, and watch as He begins to transform you from the inside out. Seek Him in prayer, in His Word, and in the community of other believers. And when the enemy comes knocking, remember that you have a power and a purpose that he can never take away. The story of Job is a powerful reminder that even in the midst of life's storms, God is still on the throne. Through Job's trials, we see the mysterious interactions between God and Satan, the unwavering faith of a righteous man, and the profound encounters that can happen when we trust in our Creator. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever faced a trial that felt like too much to bear? How did you see God work through that situation? Share your stories in the comments below, and let's encourage one another as we navigate this journey of faith together. And if you found this video helpful, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Until next time.